call this meeting to order. If you would, follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation from Eric Schmidt. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we thank Thee for this wonderful day that we have been blessed with. Father, we are so grateful to Thee for the land in which we live, and specifically for this region and this city, its residents, its visitors, and the overall sense of community that we have. Father, we are thankful to Thee for the ability to get together as employees and as board members to help decide those things that will make this city more desirable, safer, and enjoyable, and most of all, to give Thee glory. Father, we ask Thee now to please bless us with Thy Spirit as we go through these discussions, that these board members will be blessed with Thy Spirit, the power of discernment, and the ability to make the decisions that are not only in the best interest of our region and our community, but the city and Thy goals. Father, we are so grateful to Thee and give glory to Thee, and we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Clerk, may I have roll call, please?
Fenton.
Here.
Denham. Here. Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Howden.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
LeBlanc.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We will start our meeting with the public comments. This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen. At this time, the board will hear from citizens who have signed up in the order they are listed. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers this evening?
Your Honor, the first speaker is Bobby Wydeen.
Good evening. I'd like to give a big thank you shout out to Mayor Milton, who came to the Junior Auxiliary of Taney County Board meeting in April to give a proclamation for the National Association of Junior Auxiliaries JA Week, April 2nd through the 8th. So thank you. And then I would like to give another thank you shout out to Cindy at Branson Parks and Rec for giving Branson Fall Creek Head Start a free pavilion rental at the Recplex for our end-of-year celebration. It is a great way to celebrate our kids and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Very nice. So that's the end of our speakers?
And just to clarify, Bobby's address is 120 Quail Road. I neglected to say that. But our next and final speaker is Alex McCauley, 200 Box Elder Lane, speaking on public safety.
Okay, public safety is, it's that 4 or 5 minutes that always gets me, sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, basically, this week I actually listened to an interview between Jordan Peterson and another doctor who were talking about the big problem during the former hostilities that we have now pulled out of. Now, it was the fact that our regulatory agencies were literally pulling doctors into court and stripping them of their licenses for doing what they knew was best for their patients. Now, we just need to make sure that we are equipped to make sure that we protect our doctors in doing what's good for our patients the next time this happens, because Bill Gates has been saying that another one's coming down the pike. We, the people, also need to come to understand that our motto should be, give me liberty or give me death. And this is the last time I'm going to be speaking on the whole former hostilities thing, because I think we've beaten the horse enough, and this is all we need, is to make sure that we are equipped to stick up for our doctors as they come up with solutions for problems that will happen in the future, but make sure that the solutions they're coming up with are not deadly. I thank you for your time.
Alex, thank you very much. Before we move on to consent, I just wanted to share with everybody and those watching online, Kathy Stepp is unavailable this evening. She's having some medical things done. And sitting in her place is Alex. Alex is Kathy's assistant. So those that are watching or haven't met, that's why Alex is sitting up here on the dais with us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. Next is the consent agenda. Are there any items that anybody in the audience would like to see brought down and to be discussed on the consent agenda? Are there any items from the Board of Aldermen? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please read the consent agenda?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the April 11th, 2023 regular meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Finance Committee minutes for the March 2nd, 2023 regular meeting. Acknowledgement of disbursements for March 17th, 2023 through April 7th, 2023. Final reading of Bill number 6295, an ordinance amending the adopted 2022 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the general fund for an increase in legal expenses. Final reading of Bill number 6296, an ordinance approving the contract with Viking Sives Midwest Incorporated for the purchase of a 3-ton truck model chassis with a dump body and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 6297, an ordinance amending the adopted 2023 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies for additional expenses in the Water Sewer Capital Fund and approving the contract with Rush Truck Centers of Missouri Incorporated, DBA Rush Truck Centers Springfield, for the purchase of an international dump truck and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Final reading of Bill number 6298, an ordinance approving the contract with Flynn Drilling Company Incorporated for the purchase of a groundwater well pump assembly for City Well Number 5 and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda, and the floor is open for a motion approving all items on the consent agenda.
We have the opportunity for them to vote.
You do have a motion and second. We're getting it up on the screen right now.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And
Please
they're
vote.
ready to vote? Let's vote.
The motion carries 6-0. Your Honor, the next item is a presentation of the Branson Chamber of Commerce and Convention and Visitors Bureau 2022 year-end marketing report.
We'll begin with a staff report from Rachel Wood and Jack Henry. I don't see Jack. I'm just reading.
Yes,
here.
that's, apologies.
I'm just reading.
Jerry.
Just saying.
He read it correctly.
I'm sorry, Jerry Henry.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I'm Rachel Wood, the Chief Marketing Officer for the Branson Chamber and CVB. Tonight, we have Jerry Henry virtual. He is going to be giving the year-end marketing report for 2022, get those results, and then looking at an outlook for 2023. So I thought it would be best for you guys to be able to ask questions direct from the source. A lot of times we quote, well, Jerry said this and Jerry said that. So tonight we've got Jerry for you guys. So if you have any questions for Jerry, he's happy to answer those. So Jerry, take it away.
Hello, Jerry. Hello, Jerry.
Can you hear us okay, Jerry?
Jack, are you there? Jerry, it looks like your mic's muted.
think you're still muted there, Jerry.
There we go. Thank you.
There you go.
Sorry. Literally at the moment I was hit unmute, it went away. I apologize for that. But good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me today. As Rachel said, my name is Jerry Henry. I am the CEO of H2R Market Research. We're a management consultancy that specializes in travel and tourism. Blessed to be involved in Branson's research literally since the inception in the early 90s, which predates Beanie Babies. Today we serve destination marketing organizations and state travel offices from Niagara Falls down to Carlsbad in Southern California and Seattle, Southside in Alaska, and the Northwest all the way down to the Florida Keys. More importantly, though, today we're talking about Branson, the behavioral and demographic profile of travelers that we talked to last year, and specifically Branson visitors, which is the purpose is to inform the area's strategic management marketing decisions. And to do that, we use a Gen Pop survey. So we talk to travelers all across the country. The survey itself gets us to consumer residents that represent the territories throughout the country. And then we use a screener to determine, are you a traveler? Are you a decision maker? Yada, yada. Overall, we talked to 4,000 travelers last year. And today we're going to be talking about how did we do? How does the world look at us? What do our visitors look like, and so on and so forth. Start with key performance indicators because they look pretty darn good. Branson, using the model that we've now had for over 20 years that takes the 5 key performance indicators that we focus upon. We use that as a weighted average to move our visitation upward and downward, which hit another record this year at 10.2 million. That was up 2.5%. That puts us up about 12% from where we were in 2019 after plummeting 31% in 2020, bouncing back nicely last year and then gaining a little bit more in 2022. We did that because, well, frankly, things have been pretty good in Branson. The dark blue line represents year over year gains by individual tourism tax. So looking at the 1% city sales tax, tourism tax, TCED tax, the Stone County tax, and Taney County tax, all 5 had year over year gains from 21, but all 5, I think more importantly, are up by beyond 30% compared to 2019. So Branson has done really well since the pandemic, which is something that most destinations across the country just can't say.
Excuse me, Jerry, would you go back to that
yes.
screen?
Absolutely.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
What's your opinion on TCD, Stone, and Taney County's tax increases are greater than Branson's? Over the last year, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so the 11 and 13% over 0.7. Well, that's tough to say because the types of products and services they tax, along with the specific areas that they're in. I found it odd that tourism tax was only up 0.7%, would probably be the main one. So I'm assuming it has to do with the nature of the services that are located in the specific areas that are taxed, along with who visits those areas, how much they spend, and how much inflation was going on in that. But to get more specific, it would just be a guess.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, though. Here a couple of years ago, we kind of broadened our methodology. So we're looking at all travelers. So now not only do we have Branson visitors, but we're looking at non-visitors, which in many cases are more important because if we're going to grow, that's probably where we're going to grow more. And we get to look at the visitor overall and where do we fit in all of that. In 22, we had a 48% aided brand awareness, which tied us with Destin, Florida, and put us just ahead of Kansas City. Myrtle Beach was number one, and then St. Louis was two of the destinations we ask folks about. But 48% is pretty good, given the fact that Myrtle Beach has a budget that's close to $40 million. So sitting in pretty good, decent shape. The overall comp set, which is the average of all the destinations that we ask about and that is shown here, is 44%. And so Branson's 48 is just a little above average. So aware that we're here. Share of voice, and this is the difference here, is saying, have you seen any of our marketing materials? Nationwide, 25% had, and that's highest, matter of fact, for the last 2 years, the strongest of all the destinations that we have talked to, with Myrtle Beach coming in second, Destin third, St. Louis fourth, and the Smoky Mountains a little bit further below that. I will say this, the way we survey out is in tiers, and so the Midwest does have a little bit more weight than some of our outer markets, similar to where our visitors are from, but still to come in number 1 2 years in a row is good. Perhaps even better is the fact that folks that are familiar with Branson ask to rate our brand attributes, and the attributes that come out on top are kind of hard to argue with. They're family friendly, great live music and entertainment, a safe and wholesome destination, variety of things to do for every member of my party, beautiful scenery, all things that I think are part of the key appeals of Branson. And then likewise, we follow that up with something a little bit more granular, talking about the activities that people associate with Branson. And the number one answer is live shows and entertainment. That's what Branson is most known for. And right up there, just right next to it, and statistically a dead heat, is wholesome family entertainment. Then come original artists and Silver Dollar City and shopping and Branson Landing and of course our crowds and traffic, but that's nowhere near the top, which is a good thing. Getting a little closer to home, and I think probably more important, is our visitor profile. And this is the only slide in this deck that I'm going to talk about that comes from a different source than the study with the 4,000 surveys. And this one comes from artificial intelligence that's driven by consumer cell phone pings. So instead of talking to 4,000, we are literally looking at cell phone pings of about 800,000 people that are part of the panel. Years ago, we would collect zip codes from 30 different destinations, collect about 50,000 zip codes. But the reality is there's nearly 50,000 zip codes in the United States. So the 800,000 gives us a much better, far more granular view. From that, it tells us that 26.5% of our visitors in 2022 were from the core market, or 0 to 100 miles. That's up 11 points from where it was in 2019. When the pandemic hit, everything got a little closer in. Branson was no exception. And the core market remains stronger than it was pre-pandemic. Primary market is about where it was before. That's the 101 to 300 mile markets. It's 40%. That's roughly where it was in 2019. It's the outer markets, which are 33%, which had been about 43% pre-pandemic. And so, apples to apples, whereas we've essentially added, 10 points or so to the core market and taken 10 points out of the outer market. And year over year, in 2022, it was still that core market that grew just a little bit more, up 5.8%. Primary market was down a little less than 1%. Outer markets down slightly. So the growth was largely driven from within 100 miles. Not unusual as we continue to get back to whatever this new normal is going to be. But that shifted a little bit of things. So certainly the activities that Branson visitors engaged in all look familiar. Shopping, downtown Branson, Silver Dollar City, unique local restaurants, live shows, Branson Landing. But by being a little bit more core market and a little less outer market, live shows fell to, fifth place? Whereas I think once we normalize, that'll probably start going back up up just a little bit more than we've seen the last couple of years. Something we added a few years ago is what we call a functional driver. So not just what did you do, what did you engage in when you came to Branson, but of those items you engaged in, we come back and show all of those to our respondent again. And so which of these are among the primary reasons that got you up off the sofa and caused you to visit Branson in the first place? And so the largest drivers were Silver Dollar City, live shows and entertainment, and shopping. Interesting thing here, and by the way, this is the same presentation I delivered at the community board presentation here a few weeks ago for the CVB, and a question was asked, so I've added that here. When it comes to Silver Dollar City, it's, the core market, it's 36% was a functional driver, 38% within 1 to 300 miles. And then once you get over 300 miles, though, it drops down to 16%. When you get to live shows, it's kind of the opposite. It's 14%, 0 to 100 miles as a functional driver. But you get a little further out, it jumps up to 25% as a functional driver, 20% beyond 300 miles. Shopping, 24% within 100, same thing, 101 to 300, but it drops down a little bit to 19% beyond that. Any way you look at it, though, these are 3 of the activities that people say are driving them to book their trips to Branson when they did.
Excuse me, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Would you go back again?
Absolutely. One more?
No, that's good.
This one?
What was the question that was asked? It's interesting that shopping is 21% and our entertainment is 21%, Silver Dollar City being 27%. And I believe what I think I heard you say was these were reasons people got off their couch to come to Branson. And 21% people to come to Branson for shopping seems really, obviously they shop while they're here. That's just a little surprising. That's a reason they get off their couch to come.
Yeah, that's why we added the question. I couldn't agree more. Shopping frequently is the number one. Actually, I think it is the number one. Let's go back one more. Yeah, the number one thing people do when they're in town. But the fact is, when you go on vacation, most people shop. That's not an unusual thing. It's a matter of how long and how much and how important that is. So not unusual to have shopping be number one, which is one of the reasons that we added this follow-up question, as have other destinations across the country. So the way it's worded is it's asked, what did you do while you were here?
Yeah, so not necessarily a driver, it's what they did
One
while
of.
they were here, the activities they did while they were here.
Well, this one would be the activities that they did while they're here. So to say it's the number one activity in 2022 is correct. More people engaged in shopping than downtown Branson or Silver Dollar City or unique local restaurants.
Sure.
However, that's why we sharpen the pencil. And now here's the key thing, and that is, of those that said shopping, whatever the respondents selected themselves and said, I did these 6 things. Those 6 things now show up to them in the next question. And it shows them the 6 that they said they engaged in. And the next question is, of those, which are the top 3 that were your primary reasons for deciding to come to Branson on this particular occasion?
Wow.
And so if they said they engaged, then they see it again, and we ask, which of these were a primary driver of your decision to visit?
Thank you.
Jerry, I got a little sneak peek of the slide that you advanced to after this one. And I think it's just important to remember, obviously they're shopping at Silver Dollar City too, but if you see at the top theme or amusement park shows, I mean, Silver Dollar City is also shows, especially with their theme, the themed festivals and everything that they're having. So I think that's important to keep in mind too.
It's a great point. The one thing that's been remarkably consistent in Branson for well over a decade is the number of shows seen has been between 2.9 and 3.3 forever. The average party that comes to town sees about 3 shows. What's amazing to me is, remember, we got a little bit closer to home during the pandemic, and so our core market is still a little bit more bloated or a little larger than had been pre-pandemic, as are most destinations, since people are traveling further out. but yet that number held up at 2.9 shows, despite the fact that we're skewing a little bit more local than we may have done pre-pandemic. And then likewise, the number one type of show people are seeing are live performances or production shows in a theater. But to your point, you're right. The fact is, we tried to cover every possible type of show that they may have seen, like theme park shows or dinner show productions. We have places that do outdoor light or fountain or fireworks shows, and that could be a show that they saw. And we're trying to cover all the major categories that we can. And frankly, Branson has a lot of them. 96% of those that have visited spent the night. They spent about 4 nights. That's another remarkably resilient number in that it too stays from about 3.9 to 4.2 most years. It was 4 last year as well. Most people, relatively few, only spend 1 night. Quite a few spend 2 and 3 and 4 to 7. So we are both a getaway destination and a vacation destination for a heck of a lot of people. Another slide that just amazes me is our party trip spending. So as a group, how much did you spend? Was just a little over $1,000 for Branson, which it's happened before, but not that often. I can count on one hand how many times have we topped $1,000. So that's great. But that's almost identical to where it was in 2021. And both of those years, we've still been skewing a little bit more toward the core market. And those of you that have followed along, typically when you skew more locally, they don't stay as many nights and they don't spend as much money as somebody that's traveled, 400 or 500 miles. They tend to stay longer and they tend to spend more. So the fact that we're still have trip spending over $1,000, despite the fact that we've skewed a little bit local, kind of is a tribute to the fact that people since the pandemic are spending a little bit more freely than perhaps they were before. And I think that's probably a good thing for us all in the tourism market. I also thought that it was relevant to show this by season. It's summer party spending tends to be the highest, followed by, interestingly, the holidays. This is for 2021 or 22 and 21. It wasn't that long ago that it was fall that was the largest. And by age group, it's the 35 to 54 that's been the most as a party, and families spend more than adult couples because, well, they have 3 or 4 people in the party instead of 1 or 2. Looking a bit at non-visitors and how do they view us? One of the questions that we ask them is, well, what type of shows do you expect to find in Branson? Live shows is the number one thing people expect. So what kind of shows? And the number one answer is country music shows. And number 2 is music festivals. Number 3 is little hillbilly cheesy entertainment. Number 4 is original music and comedy shows and prominent local regional acts and nightlife and dancing and what have you. That's awfully good percentages all the way up and not too terribly distorted.
Yeah, and you'll acknowledge the reason country music is on the top is because of Clay Cooper.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you, Mayor.
Of course, these are non-visitors, so we want to know, why are you a non-visitor? What the heck's wrong with you? Why haven't you been to Branson? And the number one answer is, well, I prefer going to other places. Well, makes sense. You're a traveler and you're going somewhere, and you've told us that you haven't visited Branson. It makes sense that you're going to other destinations. The next one, though, is a little bit more actionable for all of us, and that no one has recommended it to me, which I think for every business in town, trying to get folks to proactively, recommend individual shows, recommend individual hotels, restaurants, the city as a whole, is something we can all do through social media, which frankly has a lot of credibility. So of our non-visitors, the number 2 answer is nobody recommended it. Number 3, despite the fact that we have the top assisted marketing awareness or share of voice of any destination in our comp set, you still haven't reached everyone. And that the number 3 answer is I still don't know enough about Branson to make an informed decision. And number 4 was not a big fan of country music. Interestingly, the don't know enough about Branson to make an informed decision is the only one that doesn't rank high as a derived barrier. And that on the back end, and I don't want to get technical here, that these are stated, we asked the question, this is what they said. On the back end, we also look, well, how well does that answer correlate with what you told us your intent to visit Branson is? Because honestly, we're looking for high negative correlations, and that this is really why I'm not coming, and I'm really not going to visit Branson. Those are the ones we want to look at the most. Of those top four, 3 of the 4 are among the top stated barriers, but that don't know enough about Branson to make an informed decision falls out. And so therefore we say that's a little bit more of an excuse than an explanation. The other 3 or 4 are pretty good explanations. Looking forward to 23, and I'll be the first to tell you I am the worst prognosticator known to mankind. I am pretty darn good at looking at what people say and interpreting what they mean. I'm pretty good at measuring backwards with math, but when it comes to looking forward and projecting, I'm no better than the average economist, which is, best guesses. I do like this slide though, and this is nationwide. This is the U.S. Travel Association looking at domestic leisure travel volume. And it is forecast, but if you will, look with me back from 2009 through 2019. And so there's 2 takeaways for me there. One is that leisure travel nationwide typically increases. Oh yeah, you can get into a great recession in 2009 and maybe it won't. Or, you can have a once in 100-year pandemic, or I hope it's only once in 100-year pandemic anyway. And that'll make some changes. But in general, you get a small uptick. And the other thing is it generally grows somewhere between 1.5% and 3%. That's normal. Nationwide, we went for quite a few years. And then we had the pandemic, and that's it's unheard of. We've never seen anything remarkably close to a negative 24.5% decline. Thank God we had never, and hopefully we never did again. Of course, you're sitting at like 1.9 billion trips in 2019 before you had this 25% drop, and that puts you down to about 1.4 billion. So despite the fact that leisure travel nationwide grew 26.5% in 21, that still didn't get us all the way back to 2019 levels. It took 22's 6.2% gain nationwide to just get us 1% above leisure travel where we were in 2019. And leisure travel is the only segment that has gotten remarkably remotely close to 2019 levels nationwide. The other thing I'd like for you to look at, though, is now see that 26.5% gain in 21, a 6.2% gain in 22. Those are huge numbers. Those are great. But 23 at 1.4% is not particularly robust. That will be, if it's true, and by the way, I don't know that they're great prognosticators either, but if it's true, that 1.4% would be the slowest growth that we've seen, well, since 2009. So the one thing I want to point out here is that Branson has had 2 remarkably great years since the pandemic. And frankly, leisure travel has had a good rebound as well. But next year, the experts, that as they are expecting that growth in 23 will be substantially smaller than anything we've seen in the past couple of years. The other thing I want, and I've kind of overlaid, or I don't know, put it under there, how Branson has done each of those years, and then just took a simple average, dating from 2014 all the way through this last year. And if you do that and you just take the simple average, you'd say, well, Branson on average in the average year is up 5.6, and nationwide is up 2.3, which is a nice comparison. Don't know if it means anything, but it certainly feels good. And then lastly, I would like to point, because I always like to find multiple sources when I can. That's the U.S. Travel Association. Separate from them is the Star Report, Smith Travel, that tracks the hotel industry. And they're essentially singing from the same song sheet. That is, demand dropped 36% in 2020. It bounced back almost 38% in 21. Still strong growth in 22 at 11%, but next year they're projecting only 2.8%. So they too, compared to the last 2 years, are saying they expect demand to be still an increase, but a softer increase than we have seen. The one good news is they're also showing that if ADR indexed as 100 in 2019, they're expecting that to continue to grow and to be 115, which means expected to be 15% higher than it was in 2019, and that ADR should hold up and continue to look strong in 23. I think that's probably a reasonable proxy for prices in general. In other studies we've done, we certainly know that travelers mindfully hope and intend to keep spending above and beyond where they have in the past. The question is, will we have a recession? And if it does, what will that do to spending? And, you know, anyone's guess there. But if consumers have their way, they're going to keep traveling, keep spending. But 2023 is a tough year in that while there is supposed to be growth, it's essentially supposed to be much slower than we've seen the last 2 years. And I suspect, now again, I'm a horrible prognosticator. Last year at this time, I said, man, Branson just had a tremendous year. After 21, it's going to slow down. My guess is the pendulum's going to swing backwards, and we grew another 2.5%. Shows what I know. However, I'm going to say it again, and that is I believe at 30,000 feet, the trajectory for Branson will at least be similar, and that if we do grow, the growth is going to continue to slow, and it could cause the pendulum to start to swing the other direction. It's something we ought to just be aware of going into 23. I think that was the last one. Any questions, observations, tomatoes? You can't really hit me because I'm not in the room, but anything I can answer or better explain.
Are there any
Anything but
questions?
prognostication, because I'm horrible at that.
Jerry, as always, I think you did a great job. I recall speaking to you about a year ago, looking at what our projections were for '22. And at the time, I would have been pleased if we exceeded 19 numbers, knowing we wouldn't come close to the 21 numbers. And obviously, very surprised with that. Anybody in the audience have any questions for Jerry? Any board members? Marshall?
Jerry, you know, I kind of continue to emphasize this over the years, but, you know, the baby boomer generation is one of the largest in the history of the world. They just began turning 65 in the year 2011. Currently, there's something like 50 million of them, and in 7-8 years, there's going to be 75 million senior citizens in this country. So, you know, I see things like these statistics where we say, you know, there are visitors that don't like country music, or that's their perception of us. And what I would caution as we continue to sort of diversify as a community in our marketing is that let's not always chase our tail of the people that aren't coming here, because you never know who you're going to alienate who might come, and you might end up actually losing people. So I appreciate the idea of going towards families and going younger, but just understand that there is a huge swath of senior citizens that are coming of age. And in the same way that we saw sort of a dip in some of the bus traffic, we might see that pick up again because of their age groups and that kind of thing. They want to do different things, but I've talked to a lot of tour operators that are having some of their best years in the past 5. So, you know, maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think we really need to stick to our core values and principles that got us to this place, diversify a bit, but really key on those core principles that made Branson Branson. So,
Thanks, Marshall.
Marshall, I totally agree with you. In showing that, we're looking at what non-visitors are saying, just because they say, well, I'm not a country music fan. Well, you know what? Every brand out there isn't for everyone. If you're advertising that, hey, we have something for everyone, it means that we have a lot of stuff for no one. And so the reality is, I agree. We have to stick with a very clear brand message that got us to the dance. And just because there are some people that say, I don't like country music, okay, well, you know what? Then you're probably not our target market. So let us focus more on those that are. So yeah, I agree with your takeaway there. I don't think we start racing after others that don't have the same values, beliefs, or looking for the same kinds of entertainment that
Yeah.
we offer here, thinking, oh, wow, we can really grow it. I think that would probably be a mistake. But likewise, I think it's wise to understand why some of those non-visitors aren't and focus on the ones that, like, you know what, I haven't had a recommendation. You know what, that's something we can do something about. We can,
Yeah.
have some action plans against that one.
You bet.
So, but excellent point. I agree with you.
I just want to back
ahead.
up what Marshall said. I mean, totally agree with targeting all ages and stuff, but, I mean, for my theater, without the senior market, I couldn't keep the doors open. I mean, that's how big of a percentage it is for us, so, yeah, totally. Go ahead.
Jerry, I had a question. When I reviewed the information that you had sent prior to this meeting, would you address the percentage of new visitors?
Yeah.
I recall back in the day, anything less than 20% was unhealthy. And we've been seeing that first-time visitor percent decrease over the years. And I was somewhat surprised to see it as low as 10% in your most recent report.
Yeah. So there's two things there. I'm glad you asked that. Number one, it is down to 10%, but we're also up 10 points in core market and we're down 10 points in outer markets. And we get most of our first time visitors from people that have traveled a long way. So in this, I don't know, this odd normal transition time, I guess it doesn't surprise me that it's dropped to 10%. And I would probably also say, when it comes to first time visitors, more is probably better. But the 20% figure of a decade ago, it's still an old rule of thumb, but the fact is so much has changed because I remember identifying that because it wasn't something I came up with. It was something that was written up in the International Travel and Tourism Association journal or annals of data is where I originally found that, but it was published in the mid 90s. The one thing I would say is as communications have changed and splintered and everything's down, I don't know that that's necessarily the rule of thumb that we have to live by. But having said that, I would also say, you know what, first time visitors tend to spend more, they travel further, they stay longer. So they're a really good niche to have. The problem with them is they're far less likely to come back too. So having a good mix, I think, is a good thing. I don't know. I certainly haven't read anything since that one study, and so much has changed since the mid 90s. I just don't know that there's a rule of thumb that says it's got to be 20%. But I do believe that if we get our 10 points back in the outer markets, my guess is we're going to be back right at 20%, which probably isn't a bad place to be. I'm just not sure I'd follow my sword on that 20% anymore.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but
No, that's good. Times change, opinions change, facts change, right? Got to
Yep.
keep up with the changes.
yeah. But the 10%, I think, the stark decline is more of the mix of customers that we had in 22.
Is your research also supporting that we're starting to see more motor coach travel? I know for a period of time it was dying on the vine, but boy, it sure seems recently that motor coaches are, I don't want to say they're coming back with a vengeance, but man, they're coming back.
It's coming back. I'm not sure I would go so far as to say coming back with a vengeance, because at one point, I think 13.5% of all visitors coming to Branson were in a motor coach.
Yeah.
But that was like in 94, 95, or it was somewhere in the mid 90s. I don't think we're going to see that again, but could it have another heyday and another bump? Yeah. It possibly could. The one thing I will say is COVID changed everything. It changed our values, our beliefs, and our behaviors. And that makes anything possible. And so, just because that whole, we've done it before and we always tried that and it didn't work. It's like, well, it may work now.
Yeah.
Because people are different.
Other question? Ralph, go ahead.
I just wanted to, I clued in on the behavioral pattern, it seemed like wholesome family, safe, fun, entertainment was some of those key index points, which, kind of lends, and this board has always been faith, family, flag, and fun. And it just goes to show that, I think when we took that stand, I think it was the proper thing for us to do, because those are the values that have not changed. You can look at how people are spending their money, how far they're coming from. Those things will change. But the reason that people are really cluing into our community is because they feel safe when they're here, because of the values that, like at Clay's show, all of our shows are very high on veterans and America and America first. Mayor, you declared, Branson the most patriotic city in America. And those are the things that I think get attention. And I don't ever want those things to be, diminished because everybody's looking at dollars, but those things create dollars also.
You
and I
bet.
think when we stick to those values, that's how we continue to see that progressive growth. That is not just that 1.5%, but that extra percent or that extra 1.5% that is going to come, because of those values. And I think that's why people continue to come to Branson. I know that's why I live here. I know that's why my friends and family come here, and everybody that I run into and encounter, tourists and people that live here, that move here. Gosh, I've never been in a place where people come here to visit, they buy a house, and they go back home and move.
Yep.
Like, this is incredible, and those are the reasons why. So those indicators, I think, are what's steadfast in what we do, and I think I want to just commend the board again for making that stand of faith, family, flag, and fun, and I think we're going to stick to that because that's what brought Branson to the game, and live shows and entertainment, and all those things, and by gosh, we're going to do it.
Jerry, you have any
Well
comments
said.
on that?
I'm sorry, were you asking me?
Yeah, Chair, I was asking if you had any.
I do.
comment.
I would make one small tweak, but I totally agree with what he said. My concern is I don't know that American values all over the country have stabilized like that. Frankly, I think I see American values eroding. However, I think the one thing we can all agree on is that most of the guests that love Branson and come back to Branson and want to visit Branson, and even first timers that haven't been here, is I do believe that our target market aspires to want the values of faith, flag, family, and fun. And so I think in a world that in some places those values are falling away, Branson's standing firm on the fact that that's what our flag is. That's who we are.
And how great is that we can
yeah.
be that center point of America to stand for those values that made this country great and will continue to make this country great.
I think it's a great differentiator for Branson.
And- I'm sorry. You're more than welcome to speak. We just need to know who we're speaking to. And those that are listening online would like to hear also.
Good evening, Mayor. Ron Inch, 300 Glory Road. What an address, huh? 300 Glory Road. I was wondering if his research showed a golf destination here. We're building golf courses here, south of here, that are running out of land, I think. And that was question number one. Question number two, children's sporting events, whether it be softball, baseball, soccer's big. These traveling clubs go for hundreds of miles to compete in soccer, high school select teams. I did it for years. And if we have that infrastructure here and we get parents coming with their children, well, they're going to come back because they're going to see how beautiful this place is. And they're going to go to shows, and then they're going to go to Silver Dollar City. Because we found when we travel different places with children's sports, we go, hey, this is kind of nice.
You bet.
Ron, I think you might have, did you miss the study session? We just got new turf on our fields, and it's going to be a huge boom to that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so-
I would encourage you to listen to the study session that we
Okay.
had earlier.
Okay,
Cindy gave a presentation, a lot of good facts, and what you're saying is spot on.
right. Because I've experienced it, and they'll come back. And once they experience or see Branson for all the other amenities we've mentioned, it's a very nice place. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Any other aldermen have any questions? Hearing none. Jerry, once again, you done good.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6299, an ordinance approving the interagency agreement with the Combined Ozarks Multi-Jurisdictional Enforcement Team, COMET, pertaining to providing more effective law enforcement protection against the trafficking of narcotics and dangerous drugs, and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement.
Thank you, Rachel.
The floor is open for motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6299.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from our illustrious chief.
Your Honor, members of the board, I thank you for your time. This is a yearly, basically MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, for our officers that are on the task force, our agency with the COMET Drug Task Force. We have been participating in this for years. This is what allows our vice detectives, who specifically investigate drug crimes, to have multi-jurisdictional authority. It provides us also for extra resources, so if we had a large case down here, we could call on those resources to come and assist us, and conversely, we send our detectives up north to help with their cases as well. Most agencies have to contribute financially. We do not, because we supply what we call in-kind with our 2 detectives. And so we do recommend moving this forward.
Very nice. Any questions, comments from the audience? Questions, comments from the board? Yes, Marshall.
Chief, it's funny, we used to learn about COMET in school, and I always seem to ask every year, is COMET still a thing? Because it seems to like wax and wane as far as it's sort of the way we use it. And I'm just curious, I guess, how with the legalization and all that kind of stuff, how are we going to shift our focus as we kind of still maintain the drug enforcement, but what is that going to look like as far as sort of a shift in enforcement and maybe focusing on some different things with the opioid epidemic and that kind of thing?
So, COMET has actually, this year they secured, the grant money is coming back, so they were able to secure for 8 additional positions this year in the region, which is extremely helpful for us. With the legalization and so forth, we have not been really focusing on those cases unless it's a large case. And quite honestly, the issues that we have right now down here are meth and opioid based. And so that's the focus of that task force. And what that task force allows us to do is the same people selling dope down here are the same people selling dope up there. So by working together and having that cross-jurisdictional authority, we can go where they are and root them out.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, that sounds very healthy. Any other questions from the board? Chief, thank you very much.
Yes.
We voting? Oh, yeah. Probably should vote.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries.
Thank you, Chief.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6300, an ordinance approving the contract with Lloyd's Electric Supply Incorporated for the purchase of downtown street light poles and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6300.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second, and we'll get a staff report from Michael.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. As a part of the historic downtown master plan, we are asking for approval of a contract to purchase light poles. The intent is to purchase through a sole source contract with Mercer Zimmerman of Springfield. Lloyd's Electrical is the local supplier of these street light poles and assemblies. The city has negotiated a contract with Lloyd's and a number not to exceed $67,240 for the replacement of 36 light poles in the historic downtown phase. These light poles will continue the consistency of the historic downtown district. Funds have been allocated in the transportation budget for this purchase, and we appreciate your support.
Michael, is there a aesthetic difference between these poles that we're putting in versus the poles that are there now?
The poles that are there, some of them are deteriorating. They're wooden poles that are there. They were made with a lesser quality wood than the ones that are here. They're in the second phase and third phase of it. They had redesigned the poles, so these will replace the ones that have a lot of cracking and chipping and problems that are going on with them. So.
And I know on our list of things that we're discussing is to continue our downtown improvements that have been put on hold. Are these poles are going to be in part of the, I think it's, what is it, segments 4 and 5 that need to be completed?
They may choose to continue that image going forward. These are replacement poles for 1, 2,
For the
and 3 right
1,
now.
2, and 3.
For the existing, correct.
Thank you. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience? Questions from the board?
Michael, I have a question not related to light poles, but related to downtown. I got an email a few days ago. Somebody, I guess a business owner down in downtown, was asking about the waterfall or the fountain.
Sure thing. Love to fill you guys in on that. So, Cindy stepped out of the room, so it was missing a pump, and it got turned on today.
Oh,
So that's kind of fun and exciting. We sent that out today.
Awesome.
So pump bearing had gone bad, and so we were waiting for that, and the Parks Department installed that this morning. So
You talking about at
fantastic
Liberty?
improvement. So
At Liberty Plaza?
yep.
Got it.
Good. Yeah, because the previous response was the city didn't have the money to fix it, but I guess it's a non-issue now because it's
Yep.
fixed. So
But
thank
we
you.
found the money, right? So of
Thanks.
course.
I have a question.
Oh,
The light poles, are these going to be like brighter lights or LED lights or what?
No, these are just the actual poles, the wooden poles
Oh,
that
so
they
lights will
used
be
in
the
there,
same.
so they're gonna sub them out. So they're custom-made poles that were designed and very particular on the wood that they put into it and some of them didn't perform as we would like them to.
What kind of lights do we run downtown right now?
Right now, LEDs.
They're
So,
LEDs?
yeah, they originally had the potential for sound and changing colors and stuff like that, but that technology didn't hold. So right now, they're just constant lights.
They have the
but
potential of, or like they
They
can?
do have the potential.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask all that is because, you know, it's like, I talk to a lot of business owners that actually come into my office and, you know, trying to, you know, their big thing is like designating downtown, like having some identifying factor. And one of the things for me was, boy, it's just not really lit up once the sun goes down. And I know a lot of them are closed, but it's really like, you have no desire to even walk the sidewalk because it's so dark down there. And I was like, that was one of the things I was gonna have bring up, if there's any way, I don't know, like brighten the place up down there, like just the street lights.
I don't want to steal somebody else's thunder, but those cool stars and LEDs that were down there,
Dude, that
we're
was-
getting a whole lot more of them. So.
That was incredible. Like that
That
like
wasn't-
Christmas time, like even after businesses were closed, you still wanted to go downtown because it was so well lit. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, they paid for the study on these actual light poles we're talking about today to make sure they hold everything that they want to do. They have some major plans for the holiday season, which extended really far, and I thought it was wonderful down there. So I enjoy driving through every day.
Can I ask?
Al-
Oh, go ahead.
Alex, would you follow up on, see what opportunities we have for the, both sound and the changing of the colors of those lights?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mike, I feel like we just had it, I feel like I remember Keith up here talking about these very posts since I've been in office and having the same discussion about redoing them and the structure was not quite right, blah, blah, blah. Is this, are we just now getting to it, or is this another change?
No, I am carrying Keith's torch for you, so.
Okay.
Yes,
Because I'm
so
thinking, didn't we
I
just
won't
change
call it
these
what
out
it
like a
is,
year and a
so.
half ago? I'm like,
Yeah.
are these the poles that, okay, so
Yeah.
this is that same.
They are, right, they are, they're custom made, and it's
Okay.
a contract that took a while to get it,
And
to
they-
find somebody that wanted to purchase them, or produce them for us.
Because I
and the
remember
local
him talking about they
companies.
were doing stress tests on if it would hold structures and if they attached, so this is the same,
The-
these are not additional new posts.
That's correct.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Clay says, really, these poles are, they're worn out after 2 years?
Like a year and a half, didn't we just get new, but this is the same pose that we never got.
Right, correct.
Okay,
This is they identified 36 of the worst ones.
Okay.
And so we're gonna start with this and see how these perform.
That is not the speed of business.
No, it wasn't this, now it
was-
is.
that's what
Now
I'm
it
saying.
is.
That's
right.
an example.
We were
of-
at the speed of
That's
government.
old school, right.
There you go.
Took us 2 years to get these new posts, but I'm glad we are. I'm done.
Any other questions from the board? We beat this one? Okay, let's vote. Thank you, Michael.
He's just cleaning up Keith's mess, aren't you?
You know Keith's listening.
Yeah, right.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries. Your Honor, the next item is a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Branson, Missouri, stating facts and reasons for the necessity to amend and increase the fiscal year 2022 budget for the mandatory redemption, water, debt service payments, and transfer in various funds. The floor is open for a motion adopting this resolution.
Come on. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Ben, I've looked through our agenda items. Can I get you a chair? You're going to be up here.
Seems like third meeting in a row.
You're going to be here for a bit. We'll get a
We're
staff
going to do
report
these
from
by
Ben.
Tuesdays, though. So the resolution, the ordinance following it is for the same item. Remember, last time we did a budget amendment, we got to do a finding of fact and then the actual
Yes.
ordinance. So the next two items are going to be the same thing, so you won't have to hear my voice again.
This is speed of business here, so you don't have to hear the same thing.
So
I'm liking it.
as we close the year, as we close the books out for 2022, invariably we come up with items that need to be cleaned up. And what you've got in front of you are those items. One of them is kind of it sounds like a nasty word, but it's not. Mandatory redemption. What that means is we're prepaying bonds down on 2005, 2005A, 2007A, Branson Hills and Branson Shops. Those two projects, we're prepaying bonds. That's by rule, so any surplus sales tax comes through, we pay principal down. And that's what mandatory redemption means. So that's a positive thing. I won't go through each one of those, but I did want to point that one out. And that's actually a very big positive. It's hard to know what that's going to look like during the budget, so we usually just clean it up at the end of the year. That's what these two items are.
And historically, that Branson Hills revenue has far exceeded what the
Absolutely.
original debt requirements were.
Absolutely.
So it's just positive to get that paid down early.
Right.
Any questions from anybody in the audience? Questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
Yes.
You want a voice vote? Voice vote?
We got it.
You got it?
We did, yeah.
Oh,
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries. Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6301, an ordinance amending the adopted 2022 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies for the mandatory redemption, waterfall, debt service payments, and transfer in various funds. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of 6301.
we have a motion and a second. Same report, Ben? Anything different?
Nope.
Okay. Any additional questions from the audience? Any new questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries. Your Honor, the next item is a resolution amending the adopted 2023 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies for additional expenses in the Park Fund for the purchase of a 3-ton truck model class chassis with a dump body. The floor is open for a motion adopting this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report from Ben?
Last meeting, and then the second reading was today, was the purchase in Parks and Rec for a dump body or a truck that came in over budget. So what this is the budget amendment to catch up with that truck. Since we're moving at the speed of business, this has just got to catch up to it.
You used that against us, huh? You used that against us.
It's a positive thing.
This sounds like Cindy is trying to sneak in a truck in addition to her 2.4 million request for the rec plot. Oh, she left. Oh, she'll hear about it. Any questions from anybody in the audience? Questions from the board? Oh, there she is. Let's vote. Cindy, after your 2.4 million request, you didn't have the guts to sit in here and listen to us approve a dump truck?
The result of the vote is 6-0. Motion carries.
Should we take a break? Or we're close?
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6302, an ordinance amending the adopted 2023 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the Park Fund for an increase in Parks Internal Services Fund for the purchase of a 3-ton truck and model chassis with dump body. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6302.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Staff report from Ben?
No different.
Same thing, yeah, we're just funding it.
Yep.
Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
Did you want to stall for a few moments for Alderman Cooper or just?
Nah.
Okay. We're doing it. Speed of business.
That's right.
Be The result of the vote is 5-0 with Alderman Cooper being absent for this vote.
You voted yes, Clay?
Your Honor, the next item is a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Branson, Missouri, stating facts and reasons for the necessity to amend and increase the fiscal year 2023 general fund budget due to needed improvements of City Hall and the offices of Planning, Engineering, Finance, and Clerk's departments. The floor is open for a motion adopting the resolution.
We have a motion?
Second.
Oh, too late. Chuck's got you. We'll get a staff report from Ben.
So some of those, the needed improvements within the City Hall are painting within these offices that's been listed along with carpet. If you've been up to IT, HR, you can kind of see what that looks like. Fantastic improvements for very little money. And what this is doing is taking advantage of the surplus we had last year and using part of that. It's around $100,000. I know this is going to be staged over, I believe, a 12-month period. But what this does is just allow us to put the money in one spot, so that way Cindy can get economies of scale and get folks in that can actually do the work, continue to do the work. So we're just putting it all in one instead of piecemealing it out.
Very nice. Any questions from anybody in the audience? Questions from the board? Marshall?
Ben, just a sort of a pro forma question. Don't really remember this format of doing a resolution and then a first read.
Yep.
What's that about? Why do we do it like that?
I'm going to refer to Joe on that one.
No, it's okay. The way we're doing it right now, where we're doing a resolution in front of this first read on a similar item, could you explain that to us real quick?
Yes, so we had covered this at a previous meeting. The situation is that when you have an adopted budget in Missouri, if you are going to make an amendment to the adopted budget, state statutes require you to pass a resolution first that states the facts that necessitate the amendment to the budget. So the procedural steps that you're taking is the resolution states why you're doing it, and then the ordinance actually does it.
Right, and then those resolutions stand without a second read, but we'll have a second read on all those other ones.
That is correct.
Got it.
Yes, resolutions only require one, ordinances require different procedural for passage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So historic, just if I can add to
You
that.
bet.
The staff reports that you usually see, that's really addressing the statement of fact. We used to do those in one item. What we're going to try to do from now on is combine the ordinance for the budget along with the contract, when there is a contract, to be approved. So the budget, that way we've still got 2 items, right? Instead of blowing it out to 3. There are some times that we can do that, and when we find that, Hillary's been able to combine some of that for us.
Aw,
Speed of business. We're on it.
good for you, Hal. Any other questions? Hearing none, let's vote.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries. Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6303, an ordinance amending the adopted 2023 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the general fund for an increase in building maintenance to remodel the planning, engineering, finance, and clerk departments within City Hall. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6303.
Motion? Second. And a second. We'll get a staff report from Ben.
Ditto for the last one,
Gotcha.
same thing.
Same questions from the audience? Same questions from the board? Marshall, you're good? Let's vote.
Alderman, yep, you got it. The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries.
Ben, you're off duty. Thank you very much.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6304, an ordinance approving the contract with Melton Auction Realty Company, LLC, for auction services for the sale of surplus property and equipment in the police building, formerly known as the White House Theater, and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. The floor is open for a motion to approve the first reading of Bill Number 6304.
For those listening online, that is Melton Auctioneering with an E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll get a staff report from Eric.
Your Honor, members of the board, we thank you. This has been a long time coming, but we did put out an RFQ, and we found a company that we feel is very capable of helping us maximize the return on our investment as far as the auction piece of it goes. And we are moving forward with that. If the contract is approved today, we will have a tentative auction date of June 16th. So mark your calendars. If you have a theater and you need extra seats or concessionary stuff, anything along those lines, we'll be looking to offload all of those things in there and put a little extra money in the public safety fund for the build there. And we do recommend going forth with this.
And for the record, Chief, you're the right person to handle this because the purchase came out of your budget, and revenues from this sale will go back into the public safety fund.
Yes, we've been very specific about making sure we don't commingle those, and so this will specifically go right back into that project. And there is, we've been through there a few times, there is a ton of stuff in there to offload, and of course, anything that we do sell, that's less that we have to pay for any demo, so.
Yep. Did you? June 16th? Did you find resolution on the popcorn machine?
On the popcorn machine? Yeah, I've been working with Parks on that. You will probably see that in a slushy machine in service, but we do still withhold the right to bring it back for our community room when we have that in place.
Okay, any questions from anybody in the audience? Jason, you're finding humor back there? Any questions from the board?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Marshall.
Chief, I have an interest. I don't want to be treated differently than any regular citizen, but I would like to have my chance to bid against the other citizens on the letters. So could we make sure that the letters are included in that?
So the actual White House letters?
Letters, yes,
Yes.
sir. Okay.
We have told the auction company anything and everything that they can sell to get rid of, even the decorative wood molding inside, toilets. You want cheap toilets, come get them. You just got to pull them out. But we're selling everything we can out of there because, like I said, we're just going to be taking it off, and whatever we don't sell goes into the dumpster anyway.
Hey, if you want me to bid against Marshall, I'll get that
Yeah.
up on those
Drive it up,
letters.
yeah.
I'll drive it up.
There you go.
Joe, any requirements or restrictions, limitations on city employees bidding on these items?
Not on this. There can be conflicts of interest restrictions through Chapter 105 of Missouri statutes. Typically, what that would involve would be with sealed bids. Here, this would be a public bid. If an alderman or any city official wanted to go, they'd be essentially going really as a member of the public, and they would be required to have the highest bid in order to win. So that would meet the requirements.
Very nice. Well, I may drive the bid up on those signs.
I'm not fighting with you on it.
No, Clay already gave me a stand-up of him when he was 25 years old for my museum, so.
Free of charge.
Any other questions from the alderman? Hearing none, let's vote. Thank you, Chief. I'm glad you're in charge of this.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries.
Your Honor, I move to read Bill number 6304 for its final reading due to timing.
We have a motion and a second to approve the reading of the final motion. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the board?
I got a question. Is there a reason we're doing a double read on this?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yes, because of the timing of it all. In order to get the auction in that time frame, which will be beneficial to us, we have to do this so that we can get in and do the inventory. We have a lot of stuff that we have to move from areas that are unsafe in there right now. So we have literally a work crew made up of a hodgepodge of not only the auction company, but different city employees scheduled for the first 3 days of the week next week. And we can't do any of that until we're under contract.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote.
Yes.
Okay,
My iPad does not like me tonight.
no worries. The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries.
So, Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction to this item?
Yes, sir. Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill number 6304, an ordinance approving the contract with Melton Auction Realty Company LLC for auction services for the sale of surplus property and equipment in the police building formerly known as the White House Theater, and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. The floor is open for a motion to approve the final reading of Bill number 6304.
We have a motion and a second. No input on your staff report?
No, just I want a huge amount of thanks to the city staff that helped us. As you know, this has been languishing somewhat, and now with us working with the architects, we're bumping right up to that time frame. If we want to stay on that construction schedule, we have to get that auction done so we can get in there and do the demolition and everything. So Alex stepped up on Friday and helped us get this through. Joe was phenomenal in getting it reviewed, and the staff. The volunteers we're getting from the other departments has been phenomenal to get this done. So it's been a huge community effort as far as the city staff goes, and I'm very thankful.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the audience?
June 16th is when we're shooting for, and there'll be plenty of
The
ads.
question that was screamed out from the audience, I'm not going to mention any names. The question was, what's the date of the sale? And it's June 16th. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. We're voting on the second and final read of this.
Yes.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is appointments. The appointment process is in accordance with the Board and Committee Appointments Procedure for Category 5 appointments made by the mayor with approval of the Board of Aldermen. The board will be voting on a slate of appointments. Are there any aldermen requesting an appointment be pulled from the slate to be voted on individually? Mayor, please announce your slate of appointments to be voted on.
The appointment to the M. Graham Clark Downtown Airport Board with a term expiring April 2024 is Chuck Rodriguez. Appointment to the Advisory Park Board with a term expiring April 2024 is Marshall Howden. Appointment to the Planning Commission with a term expiring April 2024 is Ruth Denham.
The floor is open for a motion to approve the slate of appointments for Category 5 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Oh, is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote.
The result of the vote is 5 yes. It would be Alderman Fitton, Alderman Denham, Alderman Cooper, Alderman Howden, and Alderman LeBlanc, and 1 no, Alderman Rodriguez. Motion carries.
Cody, I'm reading what's written. It says, "Thank you, everyone, for your willingness to serve." I'm just reading.
Still reading? You're doing a good job. You're a good reader.
Just reading.
Your Honor, the next item is appointments. The appointment process is in accordance with the board and committee appointments procedure for Category 4, which are appointments made by the mayor but not approved by the Board of Aldermen. Mayor, please announce your appointments.
My appointment to the Taney County Partnership Board with a term expiring April 2024 is Clay Cooper. Appointment to the Chamber of Commerce Representative for the city with a term expiring April 2024 is Clay Cooper. Appointment to the Finance Committee with a term expiring April 2024 is Cody Fenton, Ralph LeBlanc, and Ruth Denham. The appointment to the Human Resource Committee with a term expiring April 2024 is Ralph LeBlanc. Thank you, everyone, for your willingness to serve. Did that for Cody. Well, that was reading at the speed of government. We're down to the report section.
Did we vote on that?
No.
You don't need to vote on those because the mayor was just announcing them.
Oh, yeah,
It didn't take board approval.
Sorry.
Do you want to?
I'm good.
Are you a no?
Reports, Alderman Fenton.
Mayor, in a rare move, I have nothing to report.
What? Make a note of that, Hillary.
Yes, it'll be in the minutes. No worries.
Ruth?
I want to thank you, Mayor, for your support and the proclamation made for the Holocaust Week. I was able to volunteer for some of the events, and a big thank you to our community for their support. The Owens Theater, the Concerned Women for America, the Freedom Encounter Theater, and Taney Hills Library were extremely supportive. It was a great turnout. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ruth. Alderman Cooper.
Well, as I mentioned last meeting, we were having our Missouri Baptist Children's Home benefit show, and it was a big success, had a great turnout, a lot of great entertainers, raised a lot of money for the Missouri Baptist Children's Home at the theater. And then this past weekend, we had Branson Music Fest at our theater, had over 900 on Friday in attendance and over 800 on Saturday. I believe we had 15 motor coaches booked each day, which is a good sign. A lot of great entertainers. I want to thank all the entertainers that came out and donated their time to give a sample to our community, locals, and tourists during Branson Music Fest. It's always a great thing to have. And also wanted to say, if you could keep your thoughts and prayers out, ex-employee of mine, his daughter passed away in a car accident. I think it was Friday night out in front of Kirbyville Veterinary Clinic. She was 16 years old, and they're going through a tough time. So if you could keep the Tubner family in your thoughts and prayers, we'd appreciate that. I yield my time to the alderman from Ward 1. Go ahead.
Anything you got, Marshall?
Yes, sir. A few weeks ago, we passed a resolution basically saying that we're going to take a big hatchet to red tape insofar as ordinances and things like that are concerned. And you know, I want to say this with all the love and respect that I can, that I would just ask everybody to get on board with that. You know, whether it's citizens and staff and elected officials, If we don't all move at the same speed as we keep talking about, then it's just going to be challenging. We all know that it has been said in the past that it's difficult to do business in Branson. This board doesn't have much patience for that, quite frankly. So we need to see some improvement in how customer service, I would say, is a big one. I won't go into too many details and like I said, swing a hatchet, but we just need to make sure that it's not taking months to get permits. We're not going through rigmarole, all these things, and we all need to work in tandem on that because that is so important. I venture to say if we don't get that right, then we really need to be more focused on it. So that's all I've got to say today, but let's just, and all in good faith, move together on that as a team.
Thank you, Marshall. Chuck?
I got nothing.
Ralph?
Yeah, I just want to commend Chief Smith for getting the operation moving, putting the mission focus there. You know, when I came up with that idea, I didn't know that it would be much, but it is really, it was kind of like the first time that we moved really fast as a board, and I thought it was very impressive, and we had some people that supported that, and now it's moving again. And so I'm super excited because to be able to put our police officers in their own home 3 years, within 2 years, is going to be monumental for recruiting and just complete public safety across the board. I know Station 4 is moving along, and happy about that, Chief Martin. Thank you for that. And all of you guys that helped with the White House Theater. I know Michael Woods was over there pretending he was the general manager of Kung Fu or something like that. But, you know, that puts the fun in government. But I think when you have that fun in government, that's where you can move at the speed of business. So, you know, keep it light, keep it efficient. And I appreciate what you guys have all done and stepping up and doing that kind of stuff for the betterment of our community. So thank you for all getting on board with that so much.
Thank you, Ralph. Alex?
Well, good evening. Well, I'm sure even in her recovery, Kathy is actively watching and listening to this meeting. So Kathy, we wish you a speedy recovery and look forward to your return here shortly. She has a few updates for you all, but she will update you via email via her normal process of providing weekly updates to you all. So feel free to see an email coming from us shortly. And Marshall just wanted to say we're definitely taking to heart your direction on the red tape review. That's percolated across many of the departments here in the city, and you'll hear those terms, red tape review, oftentimes in a lot of different discussions. So the mayor's initiative and direction of the board has been heard loud and clear here in administration and, as I mentioned, throughout the halls of City Hall. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Hillary, anything to report?
No, sir. Thank you.
I went off script.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I would like to encourage everybody who did not have the opportunity to listen to our study session earlier today to go back and listen to the the report we had on our police department. Public safety is the #1 concern in not only our community, but I would assume most communities across the country. And if you want to get updated on where we stand on public safety, I would strongly encourage you to go back and listen to our study session. It'll be online tomorrow.
No, it's online now.
Oh,
It's
boy,
just
there's
takes
a
a
speed
few
of
minutes.
business. It's already online.
We're on it, Mayor.
So we're on. Very nice. That's all I have. Do you have something, Mr. Cooper?
Yeah. Oh,
I was just going to say,
Mr. Mayor, we have a group of young people out here studiously taking notes.
yeah, I was
yeah.
curious about this.
Yeah.
What, do we know what's going on there?
You're in trouble. Thing or two. I think it's a journalism class. Is that correct?
Gotcha.
So they're all taking notes, Clay Cooper, on
Journalism, where y'all from?
Steve.
Oh, awesome.
Welcome, guys.
You know, before we adjourn, somebody like to come up and share with us who you are, what you're doing?
That's good.
There you go. Here's the next leader of
The
our
leader of the class
community.
right there.
There you go.
Hello, my name is Bethany French. I'm a senior at College of the Ozarks. So all of us here are journalism majors. This is our senior journalism, not senior, but our upper division journalism class. And so today we are here to just get the experience of what it's like to be at a Board of Aldermen meeting, especially here in Branson. And as you can see, we're all rapidly taking notes just to make sure that we get all of the information accurate so that we can discuss it in our class on Friday.
Very nice. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking an interest in our local government. Thank you.
Make sure you write about Clay Cooper's theater, too.
Yeah.
Country music.
Country music.
He's the reason everybody comes to Branson.
Just
You got all that down?
Don't forget Hall of Famer.
Texas Country Music Hall of Famer right there.
Okay. All right, are we ready?
Nope.
You ready to move on?
The next item is to adjourn.
He's going to read that.
Well, it says mayor.
Yeah. Go ahead, read. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
I read this part. Now you're all just, quit taking, you're not taking notes. The next item is to adjourn into executive session. The floor is open for a motion.
Your Honor, I move to go into closed executive session pursuant to, excuse me, 610.021.2 RSMO for real estate and 610.021.12 for negotiated contract.
So we have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Alderman Cooper, I'm going to assume that's a yes from you, since you made the motion.
Oh, I didn't push it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
See-
pushed it, didn't I?
You pushed
No, it's not registering. Just a verbal yes would be great. Well, I
Yeah.
don't. It's not on here. I don't know what.
Oh, yes.
All right. The result of the vote is 6-0. Motion carries. The next item is adjourn. The floor is open to adjourn the Board of Aldermen meeting.
We need a motion and a second and vote to adjourn.
We have always done this.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This.
Opposed, same sign. Motion, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.
But then you don't ever come out to adjourn it.
We're gonna be like, man, that mayor.
Okay, we will need to talk about this.